Welcome back to another episode of Born Again Bowhunting Podcast. We're still down here at deer camp in Kentucky, having a grand old time.
That's right.
We had some good luck and bad luck here, and I think we're going to go over that on this episode.
Yeah, we're gonna dabble in some things that have happened over the last few days. But first off, probably the first and second day, Kevin and I kind of found ourselves crawling in a little ivy.
Yeah, we stretched our luck on those trees for sure.
The problem is, you find the tree that you want, and you're like, that's the one.
That's the one.
And you see it's got poison ivy all over it.
And we looked at that one and we're like, let's move on to the next tree, just 10 yards down. We always came back to that same tree.
There was no more trees. It was like the one. So we're like, well, there's no time like the present. I may or may not have just swam up that tree in poison ivy. I mean, I had my saw and I was breaking off as I was going up the tree, but it clearly did not matter.
Yeah.
So it was probably day 2 when I started to get a good amount of rash starting.
The old name brand poison ivy.
Yeah, dude. This is not no Ohio poison ivy. That stuff just gives you some speckles. It's some off-brand stuff. This name-brand Kentucky stuff just spreads like wildfire.
It's hardcore.
Yeah.
It's bad.
And Kevin and I started getting it at the exact same time. And
all on our forearms.
Yep. And then it got in between my fingers. And then I would say Wednesday. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Wednesday I woke up and
it was spread to your face.
It was on my cheek, on my forehead, and it was starting around my mouth. And I was kind of like, well, I was going to tough it out. And I'm like, once it got on my face, I was like, that's kind of it. I got to go. So, Kev, I was like, hey, Kev, you want to go with me? Nah, old boy's going to tough it out.
Probably a dumb idea at the time now, looking back.
So I took a shower and I ran up to the old urgent care. The same place as
old Dr. Smiley.
Yeah, old Stevie went. Saw the same doctor. She just walked in took one look at me and she's like, well, I see you got it on your arms, your hands.
Your face.
Your face. She's like, do you get poison ivy bad? I'm like, yeah. You ever had steroids? Yeah. She's like, well, we'll put you on the old steroid pills and give you a cream. And once she said the cream, I'm like, I might be able to bring Kev back some of that. So, whether you're supposed to or not, old Kev and I have been medicating with that tube of cream.
That tube that's smaller than
a travel toothpaste.
This morning it about ran out.
Yeah, you didn't have much in that tube.
Yeah, so
It's containing the itch, that's for sure.
Seriously.
And it's really knocked it down, I think.
The steroid pills are really doing a number on mine. It's starting to feel a heck of a lot better, but...
So basically, if all heck ever broke loose, Black and I are the only ones surviving anything because we've been in Kentucky for the last 6 or 7 days and haven't gone to the ER, so kudos to me and Black. Because
I'm not saying I got
but I've benefited off of you
going. That's true. I helped you out a little bit.
I'm not saying superior genetics, but we're going to run the world one day.
It was
between the ticks and the poison ivy, and I will say that you guys, it's some of the worst ivy that I've ever seen in person.
It really is.
Like blistering, bubbling, and maybe Black, you've probably seen worse in the Army and stuff like that, but personally I've never seen anything
out
worse.
Of just hunting?
Just climbing a tree and then climbing down,
So the first day...
I was even wearing the long sleeve shirt, and it still got through that onto my forearm.
Right.
So here's the question. Is it the leaf? Is it the stem? Is it the liquid? Is it the... What is it that out of poison ivy?
I think it's an oil on the leaf, but I broke a section of stick off, and it was literally dripping like an hour later. Ooh. And I imagine if I got a little bit of that drip on me...
if you would have just went underneath there and got a sip...
I would be... They'd be shooting me up with something, dude. Because when she looked at me, she's like, how's your breathing? And she's like, open your mouth. Because she's like, your mouth's swelling.
Well, that's the thing.
Once she saw it on my lip, I think it got her
worried her a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. If it spreads to your throat, not good.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm glad I went because it was laying in the...
Let's just say that it's a good thing we weren't like 10 miles back in backpacking, or otherwise, old Stevie, we'd have to drug him out, and then you guys
quartering him out.
Yeah, dude, he would.
Old Stevie wouldn't have been go 100 yards and he'd pass out and faint. And then between the ticks and now the ivy, man, this trip's been putting a whooping on us.
It's been rough.
It really has, but
it's not been all bad.
No.
There's been some
good.
Yes.
There's been some real good.
It's ups and downs, and I think that's with every trip.
Yeah, it has to.
You can't go on a hunting trip without ups and downs, in my opinion.
No.
Like, it's not worth it. Like, if it was always ups or always downs, nobody would ever do it, you know?
Oh, it was a pretty big up that day.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, afterwards.
Well,
and we're going to get into that.
After, yeah. But
So, go ahead.
So, I go to the clinic. She gives me a prescription. I gotta wait. I went to the old Kroger's. And then, of course, they were on lunch, so I had to sit in my truck and wait. And finally got everything, come back down. By the time I get back down, it is pretty much time to go hunting. And I really wasn't feeling it, but it's like, you're here.
Yeah, you got to.
You gotta go. So, doctor didn't tell me to kind of catch up on my steroid pills, but I kind of just caught up on them because I was a little behind when I started. So I'm like, well, just pop some pills, and I'm like, let's go. So old Maddie and I've been having Kev with me all week, and since Stevie left, we had 2 guys. So we're like, well,
and I killed, so
yep,
there was no sense in me going after any does or anything like that.
right.
Make use of another camera guy.
So we decided to switch it up a little bit. Kev was going to go with black. And Matt and I were decided to go to a place where we knew that there were does because Black and Stevie had seen them a night or two.
Quite a few, actually, the night before.
Yeah.
What did we see? I think 7.
You said like 7 or 8, something
7
like
or 8 came out, and then there was like
one small buck.
Yeah, there was like three to 5 already in the field. They just all kept coming in off the hills, and it was losing track of them, and then one little buck. So we knew they were there.
Right. So we knew that they were there, and we hadn't done much there at this property. So
No, we hadn't.
Black directed us in. He kind of picked out a tree and was like, listen, all the deer go within about 50 yards from this tree. You guys need to sit there.
You were a little off, by the way, Black.
A little off. Yeah, we'll get into that.
Why? All the one tree was big.
No, the deer did not cross at 50 yards.
Oh, wow. Well, you guys just would have waited around.
So we made the trek, and we got there, and walked back, went to the tree that Black thought was a good tree, and it was a good tree, but it ended up being about 6-7 foot round.
Oh, I couldn't wrap my arms around it. Like, when the curvature of the tree started, there's no way if I went to bear hug that thing, my arms would reach the curvature of the tree.
But it was in a great spot.
It was giant.
It was giant.
Like, there's no way you're climbing that
And you were
thing.
right, it didn't have any poison ivy on it.
Oh, see?
Yeah, you're right about that. So we ended up...
You win some, you lose.
Still a good tree.
So we ended up going to the next tree over, which was right there.
And then honestly, if you wanted to really hunt that spot, you should go to the next tree.
There's 3 more trees, I think. And if you would go to the next tree...
Like if you went to the next tree in front of where we went, you are 20
closer.
yards just sending it all day.
Yeah, so Maddie started setting 6, and the tree was kind of laid out funny. It was one of those trees that had the big trunk and then split off into like 4 or 5 sections as it went up. So we were set up a little goofy. Matt was quite a bit above me.
Yeah.
And I was down I was down 3 sticks up probably. And I was almost to the point where I had to...
You were in the crotch of the tree.
Yeah, lean back. I could lean back and lean on this big branch that came out. It was big enough to where I could... Yeah, pretty much a trunk. And it wouldn't move. Like, it wouldn't shake the branches when I leaned back on it. It was really sturdy, which was a massive help.
Later on.
Yeah, later on. I mean, it was like, had me like a rock. But we sat there, and we were set up pretty early, like 5 o'clock. I don't think legal's till like 8:20.
8:30-ish, yeah, somewhere around there.
So at about 6 o'clock, we had this single doe come out probably about 200 yards.
Maybe even farther.
Yeah.
She was out there.
Yeah, she came off the hill at like 6, which is super early.
Because all week we've been seeing deer at like 7:30 at the earliest.
Like the last 40 minutes of legal or so.
Yeah. So she came out super early.
And she just...
kind of feeding.
Yeah, just started feeding, and we weren't really paying much attention to her because we were so far off, and we're looking. She's out in a cow pasture.
So yeah, so to kind of give you guys paint the picture real quick, we're sitting on a fence row, and there's an actual fence.
Yep.
And a couple trees in it, and one side is pasture where there's some beefers in it, and then the other side is standing beans. So we're sitting in between pasture, kind of hay. There's like just some like grass kind of growing, but the deer love it.
Yep.
And then there's beans on our left side, and to the north is we're in like a giant bowl. We're at the bottom, and then everything to our north is just nothing but just timber. So they roll off the hills to our north and come down in the bottoms and feed.
Yep.
So just to paint the picture, that's where we were.
Yep.
She came off the hill in the pasture, 200, 250 away from
she
us.
Was far, man.
And then just started coming.
She just started coming in on a string, and quick. So we watch her, she comes in, and I think I started to get my rangefinder out, and I was ranging her at like 90 yards. But she was coming in pretty much on.
Well, at one point in time, I shut my camera off.
Yeah.
Because like I got a little footage of her, and like, you know, when she's 200 yards out, I'm not going to sit there and film her for 10 minutes.
Right.
So like I got like maybe 30 seconds of her, and I shut my camera off. And then I don't know what I was doing. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking somewhere else.
I think you were looking out at the bean field on the other side.
And then all of a sudden, you were like, dude, she's coming. And I look up, and I'm like, where is she? And at this point in time, in a matter of like 30 seconds, she covered 100 yards.
Yeah, she's like 100 yards. So this whole week, I've been saying like I wanted to shoot a deer at distance, and by distance,
ethically.
Yeah, it not only does it have to be the right shot with the deer in the right manner, but it has to be calm. Mm-hmm. You have to be steady, and so she comes in and she hits about 90, and we're like ready because she is kind of gonna feed catty corner to us and come closer. So,
but she's at 90 yards working towards us. It's not like we were wanting to shoot her at 90.
Correct.
We got ready because she was coming at us.
She was coming.
Yeah.
So she comes in and she gets to about 50, and there's a big branch that comes down. And I'm kind of ready. Matt's like, well, I can shoot her. I can get her with the camera if she's in that opening. So I'm like, okay, well, I can shoot her in that opening. She steps in and I range her. I only get the time to range her and look up, and she jumps over the fence into the beans. Which is good, because we're like, she is going to come
right to
like
you.
Right
25.
To us. Yeah.
So there's another branch that comes off that tree and hangs over the beans, and she gets behind that branch, and she feeds in those beans for 20, 30 minutes.
At least. Yeah, half an hour, 45 minutes at least.
And she's at like 40 yards.
I changed the battery in one of the cameras. I mean, took a small nap. I mean,
she was just hanging there.
She was just munching.
And at this point, it's only like 6:45.
Yeah. Not even prime time.
Yeah, not even close. So she's feeding, and then it's almost like she was looking. She didn't like something. She goes straight away from us to the edge of the bean field and goes up into the woods.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Sight, and we lose her. And I was like, oh, dude, it was so close, because she came from so far, all the way into
40 yards.
We couldn't shoot her.
We couldn't shoot her.
Yeah.
And so she goes up in the woods, and we kind of forget about her. We're like, well, let's just see if there's more deer. So as she's up in the woods, 2 does and a fawn pop out at about 150 yards.
Two big does.
In the beans. And start feeding in the beans, kind of towards us, not really. So we're kind of looking at them. I turn and look up to the woods where she was, and I'm like, she's still there. As soon as I say that, she jumps over the fence, and she's just standing in my shooting lane underneath that branch. And I range her. Matt is finishing putting a new battery in the point of view camera. And I look up, and he's trying to click the camera on, and I go, 72 yards. Reach down, dial, look back up at him. He's like swinging the main camera around trying to get her. And I'm just calm as could be. So she was standing almost perfectly broadside.
A little bit
She
quartered.
was a little quartered away.
Yep, just the tiniest bit.
And she is, with her head backwards, feeding into this little, I don't know, it's just a little bush.
It's just like a clump of grass. Yeah.
So she literally is like, she's in an awkward position.
You couldn't ask for a better opportunity.
Fully open, has no idea. She's feeding.
So she's quartered away a little bit. Like you said, her head is down in the grass to her left. So that means it opens your shot up even more. Yes. So it like opens her vitals up even more because she's turned. So I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better opportunity.
So I literally, after I looked up and said 72, spun my dial. I draw real nice and easy, and I'm leaned up against this branch, and it is
trunk. It's not a branch.
Yeah, it's a trunk.
Yeah.
So steady. Once my bubble gets level, I put my pin on her, and that pin just sits there like a rock. I mean, it never moved. And I knew that enough time had gone by that Matt was on her, because he said he would get her. He'd be on her. I was just trusting, man. I'm like, he's on her. That pin sat right behind her shoulder, center mass, and I just slowly pulled, and that sucker went off. And I was so focused on the deer that my bow went off. It made this little jump forward. My release hand goes back, and you can see it in the video. My head doesn't move an inch. I'm just staring.
Yeah, you're locked on her.
And that arrow just green just makes one of the loudest diaphragm pops.
Yeah.
It is so cool. And she just takes off on a tear.
I think you broke ribs or something.
It had to have.
Because she took off. Like, she was hurt.
As fast as she could.
Yeah.
So she goes about 20 yards, and she turns to go uphill.
Up back into the woods.
Into the woods. And she just realizes that she
said, nope, I can't do that.
I cannot. Turns right back around, just running. I'm full bore. I'm as fast as the deer can run.
Yeah.
She's
in the video,
sprinting.
she's cooking it.
So she ends up making it about probably 125, 150 yards.
At least, yeah.
And she just piles.
Well, as she's running, you can see the blood just pumping out of her.
Every time she would open up, like go on a... She'd open her legs up, yes, it would just
pour out.
Like such a relief.
I knew. So like when you shot, okay. So obviously for the people listening or watching or whatever, like 72 yards, that's a poke. But you practice like crazy, and as soon as you looked up at me and you're like 72 yards, I'm like, you've got it, dude. Like I knew that you could make that shot, and as soon as I heard that pop on the diaphragm, it's like it's over. Like. That pop was so loud that there's no question in my mind it was double long.
Yeah.
You know, and she went far, honestly, but I think it was because she was running so fast.
I mean, I've never seen a deer run like that.
I think it's because you broke ribs.
Could be.
And, like, it scared her, and she just took off. Goes 150 yards and just falls over dead.
Piles up. Yeah, so...
And that was probably in a matter of 2.5, 3 seconds. I mean, they can cover some ground.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
She was running so fast that Matt, like, was having a hard time keeping the camera up with her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, literally, it was...
And then, too, like, to make it simple on me, because I was swapping batteries and stuff, I didn't have the camera on manual focus, like the big camera, so I just had it on auto. Because, like, I was literally in the middle of changing batteries, and all of a sudden, Jared's like, 72 yards, and I'm like, oh, crap. And he's reaching for his bow, and I'm like, I better get this thing going. So, like, I just threw her to auto real quick and, like, got on her quick. And then in the video, Jared's sitting significantly lower than me, and there's this little limb that's kind of blocking the deer, but you can still see everything.
You can see the shot,
and
for sure.
You can see the arrow smack her. And then as she takes off, there's, like, the rest of the big tree that's in our way. And, like, the camera's focusing on limbs and this and that, and I switched the camera over, and I'm trying to follow, and she's just booking.
You can see her just shoot through the camera.
Yeah, she's just booking. I get back on her, and we see her fall, and it was awesome.
Oh, dude.
One of the most impressive shots I've ever witnessed in the wild.
Yeah, and the shot, like, after we got down and got her and everything, I mean, the shot was perfect. Now, after the shot, after we celebrated, because we saw her fall, I told Matt, I was like, I think it hit her just a little bit back. But I don't think that I realized how much she was quartered.
I don't think any of us did.
So the shot went in, I don't know, probably 3 ribs in from the back of the ribs. So, like...
Just back of the diaphragm.
Of course, a little back, but not really.
No, it's longs.
And it came out...
Like, you double lunged her.
Yeah, it came out perfectly right behind the shoulder.
You were 6 inches behind where you were aiming.
Yes.
Like, if you imagine a perfect broadside deer right behind the crease of the shoulder, you were 6 inches back.
Yes.
But still, it was a double
Still
long.
in ribs, still in the
yeah,
long,
still diaphragm.
on that side.
Yeah, no guts, no liver, 100% double long.
And then it came out just absolutely perfect. Perfectly center mass.
Yep.
Like,
perfect.
Right where my pin was.
It was actually a blessing, probably, that you hit her there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because of how we didn't realize she was quartered that way. And it might have been just because of the way her body was.
I think it's because she was reaching with her head.
She was reaching to the left, like away from us, so it opened up her vitals.
Yes. So her chest was kind of,
twisted. It was. She was stretched.
It was. I tell you what.
And what's crazy is, like, I want to talk about this a little bit. Black steer, like they ducking his arrows and stuff at 30, 40 yards. She didn't do anything.
She didn't move.
And I've always noticed that. Like, it seems like past 45, 50 yards, deer just don't react. It kind of scared her a little bit. Like, she dropped like a couple inches.
See right before the arrow hits her, she lets go of all of her legs to kind of come down a little bit.
But it's not. It's not even close to being enough time.
Yes. It's not like she jumped it.
No,
she didn't jump string or anything.
Yeah. No, she didn't even know. It's almost like the sound is too far away for them to even care. And the other thing is the fact that she was feeding, head down. Like if we would have stopped her and she was like ears perked looking at us, that's a different story.
I would never take that shot on a deer that I stopped.
Yeah, never.
For sure.
But she was sitting there just gorging herself in this plant that we don't know what it was. Like head just buried into it. Like she was just so munching, perfect. Dude, and you just sent one at her.
What I think was cool is that you got a complete pass through at that distance too.
So my arrow
blew through
her, and I had to yank that arrow out of the dirt.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Kudos, boys.
That's right.
Kudos.
Seriously, them things are razor sharp.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that is my new personal best on distance for a deer.
The teams, actually. Nobody's even close to that.
But yeah, I want to touch on shooting that far.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are going to think that was an unethical shot because of the distance. It is all in your confidence and how much you shoot. So, for those of you that know me, I have a range that I can go to as much as I want.
And you're out there all the time.
And
from like 0 to 100 yards.
I would say this year I was out there a lot less than I was last year, but
definitely more than the average Joe.
Yes. So I will literally stand and I have targets from 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then I have a target at 100. And I will just sit there and shoot 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 20. I mean, I will just shoot them all. And then there's days I go out there and I don't shoot anything but the 100-yarder. Mm-hmm. I just shoot and shoot and shoot.
Yep.
And you're not just hitting the target itself. I mean, you're hitting like a pie plate at 100 yards.
Yeah, almost everything is in the kill zone.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
you always have a random
your first
flyer.
Couple are like a little rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
And then also, the tune of your bow as well. Like,
correct.
I'm not going to sit here and pat Cromer on the back. Obviously, he did tune your bow, but it does come into a factor that you have a well-tuned bow.
Yep.
A bow that's tuned to your arrows. Like, you have spent the time. Cromer has spent the time.
Yes.
You shoot it. Like, you know how to shoot a proper shot. Like, you're not punching the trigger. It all... I feel like a lot of guys, bash on people that shoot distance because they can't do it. And I hate to sound like that, but I think it's the truth. Like, most guys, and it's just the sad reality, most guys can't shoot past 20 yards.
Right.
But when somebody's out there practicing all the time, they know their bow, they know their equipment, they know the tune of their bow, it's like, it's okay, Kevin, bring up the point about out west, Kevin, because...
Well, I mean, a 72-yard shot can be a fairly average shot on a mule deer, an antelope, an elk. Yeah. I mean, some of those animals are bigger animals, period, than a whitetail, but it's not uncommon for a far shot like that.
Well, I would say...
It's like the eastern side just doesn't want to shoot anything past 40 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
And a tree stand hunter. And if you're in the woods, I get that because there's a lot of branches and unknown between you and the deer.
If you're not field
a wide
hunting,
open, you can make that shot. You've been shooting since turkey season, your bow.
Yeah, I literally shoot my bow in the snow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I used to open my bedroom window at my parents', which is on the second story, and shoot a deer target at 40 yards. I would shoot, and you need to be careful when you're doing this, because I'd have to kind of bend down,
Send one through the window.
I would shoot 8 arrows at a deer target at 40 yards and, go get them the next day. Like, when I had to leave the house, I'd run out, grab my arrows, bring them back in, and the next day I'd shoot them again. Like, dude, you would just see little track. I'd just run out in the snow and come back with my arrows. I just love it.
Yeah.
And so I actually had my bow retuned right before season. And that was a big thing.
And that's a pro tip. Like, the more you shoot your bow, you know,
before season is checking your bow over is so
string stretch, like things happen.
If you're gonna shoot it that much,
yeah,
your strings are gonna stretch, and it's just part of it.
Yeah.
I had my D-loop replaced and a new retune right before season. I'm talking like 3 days.
You guys also did that broadhead tune.
Yeah, so I was having just a little bit of different flight with my
heads,
kudos, than my field points, and we had to get that figured out, and that's big.
Yep.
If I would not have done that stuff before we came down to Kentucky, that arrow would not have hit that deer.
Yeah.
Nor would I probably have taken that shot.
Yeah.
Because
you would have been confident.
Correct. Since Cromer and we all worked that out right before season, I was definitely confident.
Yeah. No, I was proud of you. Like, and trust me, I'm the type of person that
Matt would have tried to stop me
if I didn't trust you. I would have been like, no, dude, don't shoot that.
Yeah.
But I trusted you.
Plus, I didn't give him time. 72 yards. Draw back.
Like, I am 100% the most ethical, and I'm not sitting here tooting my own horn, but like, I am the most ethical hunter, and I take pride in that. Like, I really do. I take that means more to me than a lot, is being ethical in the woods. And if I would have thought that there was a chance that you would have made a bad shot, I wouldn't have let you take that.
Right. If I would have made a bad shot or that deer was not in the proper position to take a shot like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just perfect. It was just perfect.
No wind.
It was a godsend,
she was
honestly.
Feeding. It was.
It was honestly.
Because I thought that deer was gone.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like when she came out that early and she was like on a beeline to us, I was like, fine, this one's my deer finally. And then she left.
We're at 26
minutes.
So
we're good.
Just wrap it up here in the next 5 or so.
But
the footage is pretty sweet.
The footage is good. Yeah, I love it, and I'm pretty proud of that. So,
I gotta say, like, one of the biggest things that I seen watching the footage was the arc of that arrow. I did not realize there was going to be that big of an arc coming up. Like, looking at the camera straight on, obviously Matt was above you, but the arc of that arrow going up. So, I mean, there's no way of making a shot like that inside the woods unless it's like clear.
Yeah.
Because the arc of that arrow, you have to really be looking at everything in between you and that deer.
Yeah, it enters the camera at like the bottom. Like, if you're watching it on the viewfinder on your camera, it like enters the bottom, almost hits the top, and then comes down mid into the deer.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome.
It's pretty sweet.
It's one of the sweetest shots I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, dude, it was so cool to watch. I rewatch in my head like every 10 minutes.
And then it just, it was just a good shot.
You just play that on repeat on your head.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Highlight reel of my life. But yeah, that was awesome.
Meat's gonna get donated, so it's going to a good cause. We're gonna hopefully meet up with that guy here either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got his number, so I'll give him a call.
Yep. So highs and lows, man. I was literally at the urgent care getting medicine for this horrible poison ivy. Right.
That night.
4 or 5 hours right before I shot that deer. So just shows you can't give up.
Yeah, and then also
the mindset.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the mindset. Like, you could have been down like, I got poison ivy. I don't want to go back out. This and that. But I mean, there was no question in your mind you were going back out that evening to,
I'm here.
to shoot. Yeah.
You gotta go. If you want a deer, you gotta go.
Right.
Yeah.
You took the time off work. You need to go sit in the woods.
Yep. She didn't have a fawn. I just wanted to touch base on that. Like, we're not about shooting does this early that have fawns.
Yep.
And she must have lost her fawn to a coyote or a car or something because she didn't have one with her.
Yeah.
And she spent an hour and a half in front of us.
Yep, she spent a long time in front of us.
And never once did we see her fawn.
Nope.
And what's weird is, I want to touch base on this just because, I want to be honest. When you gutted her, she had a milk sac. Like, she had, her udder was like plumb full, but she had no fawn with her. So she must have just recently lost it. And
which, also, the point, I mean, we saw some deer later that night come down. A lot of times they'll come down and they'll come across the road to come down to this bean field we're at. There's a great chance that it got whacked when she was coming across that road.
Because there's a road right there, and coyotes are big. And I guess I just wanted to make the point that, like, don't be thinking that we're out here just slaying
does
with fawns with spots and stuff like.
Yeah, because actually it was the morning before that.
Yeah, we had a doe and a fawn come in and she saw its spots. Not that matters, but we passed on her just because she had a fawn. We weren't going to shoot that.
Yeah. It's just not.
Yeah. Not something we want to do.
No.
Personally.
No.
Yep, that was good.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes, but if you guys want to touch base on anything.
I'm good. That was my pinnacle, man.
Hey, we still got tonight. We got a
Yeah.
little wild idea for tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna try some things, man. I have good feelings.
I got a feeling that we're gonna at least see something.
I do.
Maybe shoot something. We're not done yet.
Nope.
We still got some days.
Yep.
So
Basically, all you need to get from this is if you want to shoot like that, you gotta put in the time. I mean,
Yeah. Don't get the bow out the week, 2
Nope.
weeks before season and shoot at 30 yards and think that's good enough. I mean, you got to put
as soon
in
as the
some
weather
time.
starts to get warm, you need to be shooting.
Yep.
And the farther that you can shoot, the more you can shoot, the farther. Like if you can sit out in your yard and shoot everything from 20 to 60, sit there and just shoot 60 yards. That 20 is going to be cake.
Yep.
Take a week and just shoot 60.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
that
makes
is gonna,
a world of a difference.
it's going to increase your shootability. Like,
Yep. I like to shoot.
insane.
I have a nice place that I can shoot right down the road from my place, and I like to shoot my cold shots at like 60, 65, 70. Like as soon as I get out of the truck, I go to 60 to 70 yards and throw a cold one. Because if you can hit that cold, that's when you know you are
I
a
would
decent
say
shot.
Do not always warm up on 20 yards.
No.
Because
no.
that's not doing anything for you.
That's not going to do you any
when
good.
you go out in the woods, you are not warming up before every time you go
No.
out. You need to be able to have a cold shot that's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
First
Yep.
shot.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
If you take it serious, guys, know your equipment, trust yourself. You can make shots like that happen. I mean, look at, not trying to like compare you to Levi Morgan or anything, but like guys, but like seriously though, like guys go out there and
Easy now, that's mild. Okay.
like guys go out there and shoot those shots all the time.
all the time.
You know, and bows with today's technology, like we're not shooting 1990s stuff. Like today's technology, bows will hit.
And
So,
all that did is fuel me to want to shoot farther.
Yep.
I mean, it just I want
Ethically,
to be better.
ethically.
I
Yeah.
want to be better.
Yep.
So, put in the time practicing. Also, the situation, like what the deer is doing at that point in time, like
Know
the,
your animal.
like the attitude of the deer,
Correct.
what's it doing currently, where you are, what's your deer's demeanor
Wind.
in that area.
Elements.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. That was just a perfect
scenario.
It was a
perfect
godsend.
scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the example that you needed.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that it went the way that I wanted it to.
Yep. No, it was awesome.
It was.
Let's smack another one tonight.
That's right.
I'm
I'm ready.
jealous. I'll take 30 yards.
I know, but we won't get into that. Let's wrap this thing up.
25.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch the video. So watch
Yeah,
it out.
check it out, guys.
YouTube.
Please check it out.
Sounds
Good.
good.
Alright, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You can always be born again, and born again is out.
Peace.
Peace.